Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of In the Moment. I'm your host, Michael D. Jones, and I'm excited to introduce Richard Lippert. Richard is a former, he can explain it to you, but he's a former executive. He is a retired Navy fighter pilot. He's an actor, he is a writer, he's an entrepreneur. He does it all. And so, Richard, thank you so much. How
Yeah,
you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. It's really an honor to be here.
All right. Well, also, one more thing. Richard's also my neighbor. He lives a few doors down.
You said I was going to ask how the weather was where you are. You just blew the whole joke.
Oh, sorry. Well, as you can tell, we had some snow the other day, and it is still cold. And so today I'm actually wearing a little bit sweater. I'm a little chilly today. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So Richard, thank you. So first off, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and I want to dig into and ask some questions because you have such a fascinating, rich life. So where are you at right now? What's going on? Talk to us about you.
Where I am right now. Wow. This is where we are now is just such an entirely new experience after everything I've done in my life, and I've done a lot of different things, which is probably more a result of like just a low attention span. But now we're just really learning things, I guess, in a different perspective in an industry that is almost alien to us. It's a different way of working things. I was joking with some friends that after a 40 plus year career in senior executive management, that I suddenly found myself walking a picket line as a union member, which is just almost heresy, for most of my career. But you see the value in that, and you learn to do it, and it's a readaptation to new things in life. But I'm also finding that all those things we've done before, bring an ability not so much to the craft of what we're doing, but an ability to manage the environment, to manage the people, manage the environment, manage expectations. I hesitate to use words me and maturity in the same sentence, but I think there is a bit of that, and be able to say that when you start over in a new career, and particularly at my age, thank you for that. You have to be able to readapt. When you're used to being the guy with the business card that everybody wants, to now you're at the bottom of the heap again. And you're starting working up. But being able to accept being there and accept your position and where you are in life and keep a positive attitude of going forward and finding out who the new mentors are and who the new experts are and what do you need to do to succeed and what do you need to move ahead in the business and what do you have to do day to day to cope. How do you handle the rejection and all these things that go on in the business? So that's a revelation to me now to be in that position after so many other years.
And just to clarify, we're talking about your acting right
That's
now.
correct. Yeah,
This
yeah,
is this new chapter of your life, acting.
totally.
As you mentioned, like you said, you were out there, recently, the strike was happening with SAG, et cetera, and you were out there on the picket lines here in New Mexico, being very vocal, very adamant about things. So this is where you are right now in this new phase.
Right. So where did I come from? How did I get here?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you said you spent about 40 years in senior management, if
Right.
that's accurate. So what led you, at what point did you say, wow, okay, I want to get into acting? Because you have a wide range. I know that you've also done stunt car racing, precision driving,
Mm.
all those elements. So why don't you talk about that and how that maybe that
Yeah.
led into this acting world that you're in right now?
Well, I guess it's been a life of experiences. Look, Cindy and I were talking earlier today, and I started working, selling greeting cards door to door when I was like 12, and I was a babysitter. I washed cars, I mowed lawns. When we moved to New York, I worked in a drugstore. I uh, worked a soda fountain in a restaurant. I drove the launches. I drove the launches at a marina,
Wow.
and took people back and forth to their boats. I was a surfer during the college years. I had a surfboard shop. When I was going to college, I interned for 2 summers with Pan Am in Central and South America.
Wow.
You mentioned, I went into active duty in the military and served in the Navy, and then spent a lot of years in the reserves. And retired from that. And then moved on and entered into a career and started off basically in sales. and moved up pretty quickly into sales management. Then I took over into branch management in the industry I was in, and into district management, moved up to a vice president, banged around in a couple different jobs as a vice president for a while, went out and secured some venture capital money, built a network, a chain of businesses throughout the Midwest,
Wow.
merged that business off, and then was hanging around for a bit, and then I got recruited in to take over actually was a portfolio company of a combination of basically a combination of independent phone companies that were in other businesses. That was a company in online data communications right a moment before the internet really took off.
Wow.
And ran that company for a while. I moved from there into being CEO of the family office after buying out all the other partners we had in the business. I took over the family office of that business, and ran that until it was time to liquidate the portfolio. So I moved on, and we hung around for a while Cindy, as you know, is in addition to being an actor, is a minister. So while she did her ministerial things, and then that led me to follow up on one of my earlier things to do. So I'd been involved in sports cars and things when I was going to college, and I decided to go back and get into racing. So I went into Formula 2000 racing and did that for about 10 years, and won a national championship in that, and decided not to pursue that.
Wow.
And then we were sitting around the house, and Cindy asked me what I was going to do next after I decided not to defend the championship. And we happened to be flipping the channels on the TV, and the Red Bull Air races came on. And I pointed at the screen and I said, I know how to do that. And that's when I found out where the hard red line was. So she said, no.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, second best. So I went back, and we'd done a little bit of counterterrorism work when I was racing. So I went back and I said, well, I'll go back and do some stunt driving and take some classes in that. So being a little bit OCD, I went through all the classes in that and hung off learning how to be a stunt driver. And then I became a stunt driver out in California, working with one of the icons of the stunt driving industry, Jim Wilkie, who was a mentor for years and years, working out of Camarillo. And it got to a point, I wasn't union then, and I was having more and more having to, because the other guys wouldn't work. When we had these web series and other shows would come off, they want me to just go do it because the Wilkie and the other people out there wouldn't do the work.
Right.
And so I'd have more and more have to slide up and say hello to the host, or they'd put somebody in the car with me, and I'm supposed to be teaching them how to do these things. I wasn't comfortable in front of the camera, so I went home one day and I went to Cindy and go, hey, what do you think about taking an acting class?
Of all
and
things.
of all things, yeah. So I mean, I'd done some theater in high school and when I was in Central America, done that. And my neighbor in California was an Academy Award winner by the name of Ron where he won the Academy Award for Ordinary People. So I'd been close to it, and working in LA in sales and stuff, we were heavily associated with and close to the industry. So it wasn't a completely alien idea, but it was pretty far out there. But we did that, and like most things I do, it got out of control. And so we took all the classes, did all the work, and then several years ago decided to move to New Mexico. Saw it as a great opportunity as a foundation to build a career on. So here we are, and then of course the rest is history. You and I met on a movie that was being shot here, 3-4 years ago now.
Yes.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I want to touch on something real quick. You had mentioned a couple sentences ago, counterterrorism
Right.
while race car driving. How does that work?
Well, it's just we actually, and I want to we taught also military and driving, 'cause a lot of the stuff that we do in Stunt is more applicable to what the military will encounter in the field rather than a race car would do.
Okay.
So we did that, and we had to learn a lot of things. And so we were teaching things like, how do you do if you're taking a car in, you've got to pick somebody up and you come under fire. How do you get out of there? How do you
Okay.
have to know how to do a reverse 180? How do
Wow.
you know how to slide the car up to here?
Mhm.
You know, do you want to take out a certain guy walking down the street? without them knowing you're coming. How do you do that? And that's really fun, by the way.
Oh my God.
And
Well, now I got to watch out if you're driving down through the neighborhood. I'll be
yeah, that's
alert.
exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. You got to be careful if there's somebody in the right seat with a gun. That's when you got to be worried
Yeah,
about
exactly.
it. So, but yeah, so you taught all those kind of things. In fact, we had a situation. We were doing a counterterrorism class. I was in down in Florida, and a guy I knew who was a nice guy, but was not the most aggressive guy you'd ever met. And he was driving the car in, and we were supposed to be ambushing the car, and we were using paintball guns that were like cranked up. Like if you got hit, it was like a major welt that bled.
Oh my
Okay, so
God. Whoa.
and they take out a window. I mean, they were pretty big. So he goes in and he gets ambushed from the front. So he throws the car in reverse, and I know this guy, right? So I
Mhm.
think I'm in his head. And I think I know what he's going to do. So I'm directly behind the car and I'm starting to fire at the car and he keeps coming, he's coming. And suddenly I realize within a couple of feet, he is not going to stop this time. So we have to he actually does, and this was the other stunt thing of the roll, is have to hit the car and have to actually roll off the back of the car to keep him from running over me. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was
Wow.
it's kind of fun, but
That sounds very
yeah, it was
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, it was fun.
Well, I think right now, probably in this new chapter, you don't have to do any of that. But who knows, you know?
Yeah, you never know. So
So, again, you've had this eclectic life.
yeah,
I know you've lived in a few different places. Um, but again, so right now you are focusing on the acting. And I
correct.
know that you are doing a lot of that. We did meet a few years ago on a movie we did here in New Mexico. And that was a great experience, and it's so funny is that because, it was like maybe 4 people from that movie all decided to move to, New Mexico
Yeah.
after being part of it. So you're here, you're doing that, you're involved. I know you've been doing some other work here in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So what else have you been doing? And also know that, um, you have a weekly group that you put
Mm-hmm.
together, I think, for actors to kind of, like, workshop and do things. So let's talk about that because I think that's
Yeah,
great. Again, people sit at home and they talk about things, but you're actually doing it. You're
right.
providing an environment for people to come and
Mhm.
work and to not be stale. And especially during the strike when nothing was happening, to keep it going, keep that mind
Mhm.
active, keep
Mhm.
that instrument working. So let's talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, the genesis of it, I guess, was that community is incredibly important in this industry because you are so totally isolated. There is no water cooler to gather around. There is no ability to get a group together and talk about
Right.
that you do in any kind of a company. So community is important, and classes are expensive.
Yeah.
And you can't always be in a class, and you can't always going to be a class to have as its side benefit to community. So I felt it would be important to put together a group, and it's an informal, unnamed group that meets once a week. We have a roster probably of about 20 people, I think now. And we hope to get about a third to half of that at every week. Obviously, people have conflicts. And it's an opportunity to come together and people can bring work that they want to work on. We have people that bring auditions to us. They bring a monologue they want to work on or a scene, or we get together and do improv for a while. And that's a big part of it to work on skill sets and get some feedback from your peers. But it's also important just to come together and have a sense of community and a place to go and talk to people who are going through the same kind of things that you have.
Yeah.
And one of the things we want to keep on, and I know you're so big on, it, and I really respect you for, is coming in with a positive approach to things, being positive, coming into the room and staying on top, and you are exemplary because you are probably one of the most positive people I know, but you're not just positive; you do the work.
Oh, thank you.
You're always working, you're always moving ahead, you're always looking at the opportunity. And that's so important for people to recognize that just being positive isn't going to get you there. You've got to do the work,
Yeah.
and that's what people that come to this kind of a group realize that we're here, we have to do the work. We have to keep trying to level up to keep getting better and better at the craft. And this is an environment to do that. So I think it's really positive. The feedback has been good for it. So,
No, I love it, and I think, and I've been able to attend, I think, 1 or 2. I'm
mm,
always traveling, always busy,
mm,
but it is my goal to come back and visit and be a part of it.
mm,
But something that you touch upon, it is the community, and especially, for those of you that are actors that are out there, it sometimes can be isolating where it is about you. You're trying to learn your lines of this, and it's nice to kind of have that camaraderie or that, again, that give or take.
Mhm.
A good friend of mine in LA, he's an established TV actor. And, every Sunday he has movie night where he has everyone come, they watch old movies, but also during the week, he will have actors come if they like need to rehearse it. And he's always giving like, hey, come here, I'll do a scene with you, a rehearse. I've been there so many times where actors are popping in because they're headed to an audition and they'll do a quick monologue or a quick thing. And I just think it's so, and again, here's someone who's established, doesn't have to do this,
Mhm.
but they're saying, hey, this is important because that, just like you, he cares about the craft and the community. And I
Mhm.
just think that is such a wonderful environment because, again, with actors, it can be a little bit hard where you feel alone or I didn't get this, didn't get that.
Mhm.
And it is nice to kind of have that opportunity to bounce ideas
Mhm.
or monologues. And especially nowadays, I think is
Mhm.
in the past couple of years, because of COVID, it seems like a lot of auditions now are self-tape or this or that. And again, it's having that workshop mentality
Mhm.
like it was in the old days. And again, there's so many people in Hollywood or sorry, in any aspect, they
Mhm.
talk about doing something, they never want to do the work. And
Mhm.
I took acting classes years ago when I first moved to LA, and it was great. But it's expensive. It's a
Mhm.
lot. And you have egos and this and that. So it's nice that you have a safe environment where people can
Mhm.
go, and especially that it's here in New Mexico, and you have people, it's free.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's a donation basis. I know you guys rent
Yeah,
out a theater.
yeah.
So I think that's very helpful. And also, I don't know, so I think it's wonderful, and I commend you for continuing to put it on, because
Mhm.
that can be daunting. A lot of people start something, then they never finish. They're like,
Right.
"Oh, that was
Mhm.
hard. I'm done after 3
Mhm.
weeks."
Yeah.
But you are still consistent, and so I wanna commend you
Thank you.
and also
Thank you.
Cindy, your
Thank you.
wife, because I
Yeah.
know that you guys are really the spearheading ones of this, and to keep it going. Not only that, but it's a nice eclectic mix. You have younger people, you have
Mhm.
older people, so it's
Mhm.
not like, "Oh, it's only this one group." It's like, "Oh, no, like you said, it's a community from all
Right.
over."
It is. It is. And we cover pretty much all age demographics. And that's really an important point because, we learn from each other, you know. And it's interesting in the context, people in my generation get so criticized by the young people. And it's also interesting to work the other way. We were doing an improv scene,
Uh-huh. Sorry.
and I was a repair person walking up to knock on the door to fix something in the person's house. And so they open the door, and my response is, I'm so and so from the cable company here to check your baud rate. And they stopped the scene. And I go, wait, what? And I go, they said, baud rate, that's not a word. And I went, no, wait, stop. That is a word. And now I've got you guys. You guys need to learn enough
Yeah.
of this. You're not old enough for this. But, it is, you're right. It's a huge community thing. It provides a sense of belonging. And we have an opportunity there to also help people focus. I get so frustrated when I hear people or see posts. Oh, I'm so isolated. Nobody calls me. I'm here by myself and I do these things. And you go, pick up the phone,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
call somebody,
Yeah.
get out there and do something and connect. We supplement this with, you alerted to other things and it kind of overlaps. The last company I had before doing this full time, selling it and doing this full time
Mhm.
was one of the larger human capital management companies. And we did a lot of executive coaching, career transition, career guidance, life coaching. And so we offer that, and we offer that coaching in the acting community. And I would not hesitate to presume that I'm going to be an acting coach. There's too many now, and so, but we're very good at helping people not only just from life experience that we have
Right.
and the big experience that we have after a decade now, probably in this industry, of just guidance. Here's things you can do and can be on top of to
Right.
manage yourself and manage those elements of your career. How
Mhm.
do you stay engaged? How do you keep from getting depressed? How do you plan where you go? How do you help somebody talk through? Person that I've worked with is, you know, had some acting classes and no agent and a couple of short films, and they're going to move to LA.
Yeah.
And it's just you need a plan.
Yeah. Exactly. You need a
It's a
plan.
business.
Yeah.
It's a business, and you need a business plan.
Yeah.
So
And you have to work at it
yeah.
every day. I mean, it's something
Mm.
because it's easy to just you know, and again, I know a lot of people like you talk about, they sit
Mm.
and wait and wait and wait, and but they're not proactive,
Mhm.
you know, and
Yeah.
you have to be making the phone calls. You know,
Mm.
again, I'm listening to Arnold
Mm.
Schwarzenegger's book right now, and he
Yeah.
talks about this like, okay, anybody can have the vision. And he goes, that's fantastic of the vision, but
Mm.
you have to put in the work.
Mm.
You know, you want the body, you got to put in the reps.
Yeah.
You want to get this, you got to make the phone call. You don't just sit there and
Mm.
put it out there. Like, no, you actually have to put in a little bit of sweat equity
Yeah.
into it. And I think that separates the winners from, I don't want to say
Mm.
the losers, it's just the people, the motivators and the people that don't.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it takes a lot because there are those days you're like, oh
Mm.
my gosh, no one's calling me back. There's that, but you
Mm.
can't give up. You
Mm.
know, look how many times, especially I'll take the acting world, you
Mm.
see so many actors now who get their accolades after many years.
Mm.
They never gave up. And maybe it's like, you know, when they're 50, 60, and all of a sudden they're getting recognition or whatever, but they
Mm.
never gave up. You know,
Mm.
they're still putting in the work.
Mm.
And but you know, I also apply that to not just acting, but to anything.
Mm.
You know, again, you came from a world of sales and business and all these aspects, and you've got to, you know, make the quota, do the
Mm.
sales, do
Mm.
all that. It's like you're
Mm.
constantly networking.
Mm.
And that's another great thing about what you were doing back in the day. And I know how to, it's that networking, it's that sales,
Mm.
because that is your next goal. It's that person you meet at the party or
Right.
whatever.
Exactly.
You never know how it's gonna, you know, come to fruition. But I loved it. And I love
Mm.
meeting and learning from other people.
Mm.
That's something where I never want to stop learning.
Mm.
You know, I just talked to a young lady you put me in touch with, Michelle, and we were talking about that a moment ago about we never want to be the smartest ones in the room. We
Mm.
always want to keep learning. And I never take anything for granted, you know, and that's something I take with me all the time. Every time I do something, it's a new experience. What am I going to
Mm.
get from it? What am I learning? What can I
Mm.
take away? Great. Now what can I now give
Mm.
back to
Right.
somebody else?
Right.
And no, I
Yeah.
commend that. Like I said, I
Yeah.
think what you and Cindy do is wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. In
Um,
this business too, what you have to help people with is that one of the things that helped I had to adapt and so did Cindy, is in a business career, and like just take something like sales.
mm,
If it's not going well for me as a salesperson,
mhm,
I know what I can do, that I can control to reset that. I know that I can go back to quote the basics. I can start doing certain things and get my life back on track.
right.
In this industry, there's so little that you have control of. But the secret is there are things that you can control. So
Right.
when you feel out of control,
Mhm,
find one of those things that you can control.
right.
You can call somebody and invite them for coffee.
Mhm. Yeah.
You can, you know, work on your materials, update your materials. You can do certain things to be active and pull yourself out of that, oh, woe is me kind of moment. And there are elements that you can control, and you need to find out where those are and learn to latch onto them. You know, you went by a comment that I loved a minute ago. There was this public speaker in the late 70s, early 80s named Michael Vance.
Mm,
And Michael Vance was unique
mhm.
that he was probably the first dean of the University of Disneyland.
Oh, wow.
And he was the guy that did all of the training programs for Disney, dealt with all the vendors that came in, and he was there through all the construction of Disney World when it went on in the Disneyland. He was there when Disneyland had to close for the protest from the Vietnam War.
Oh,
But
wow.
one of the comments he makes is, and two things. One things that work on set is a good one. Is they talked when we were building Pirates of the Caribbean in California, and he walked in, and his head of construction was a retired Navy Admiral Seabee.
Mhm.
And Michael Disney walked in. Walt looked at him, and he said, "I want fireflies." And the admiral looked at him, and he did not say, "There are no fireflies in the budget." He didn't ask, "Why do you want fireflies?" He asked, "When do you need them?"
Yeah, there you go.
Or
There you go.
when do you want them?
Right.
You know, and it's just such a uh, profound thing to listen to him talk. But one thing Michael said is that, you know, so many things. If you sit under the palm tree on the island and you light the candle and you wait for something to happen, you know what's going to happen? Nothing.
Exactly.
So you've got to get off. You got to make it happen.
No, I love that, and
Yeah.
I love knowing you and Cindy
Yeah.
and where you guys are in your life. You know, I always see this happiness and this
Mm.
joy.
Mm.
Um, and so just so you viewers, Cindy is his wife.
Right.
They're a great couple. They're just so loving and giving and just, gracious people. And it's very nice to see
Thank you.
that in life, because so many people
Thank you.
can be jaded and they become angry and
Mm.
bitter. And, it's nice. I guess I want to say that you're retired in the sense of, and again, there's this, I don't want to say it's a new chapter for you, but it is kind of a new chapter of
Mm.
this new phase that you're in.
Mm.
And I think it's fun because,
Mm.
I'm sure it's a lot easier than being in the corporate world with the suits and all that stuff. You're a little bit more, again,
Yeah.
you're freeing, you're loose. You've been,
Yeah.
again, you and Cindy have both been working. You've been doing, feature films, some TV, some short films, some projects, etc.
Mm.
So what's next for you? What do we have to look in store for you? But also too, I
Mm.
want to talk about your acting in that regard, but also
Mm.
I know that you're doing the life coaching, and
Right.
it's something that you're promoting. And how's
Mm.
that going? And what
Okay.
are you specifically trying to tap into people and help them with?
Right. In that area, we have the organization's called Sage Coaching and Counseling, and um, we designed it. It piggybacks a little bit off the last company I had, except this one is good. Is because I'm under no pressure for it to grow or not grow or do it. So we do what we want to do. We
Mm,
put together a team that can help people across the board,
okay.
and it's virtual, completely virtual.
Oh
But
wow.
the main thing is to try to pull together life experience and help people. I mean, it may sound wrong, out of place, or inappropriate. One thing that bothers me is I see people coming up and they're wanting to get coaches, and somebody who's 22 years old will hire a life coach who's 23.
Yeah.
And it strikes
Right.
me as a little
Exactly.
absurd.
Yeah.
So what we try to bring to the party is realism. You know, um, there's nothing formulaic about what we do.
Mm,
I have a disadvantage of being kind of brutally direct
okay.
with people. Um, but it's to help people understand and put together a plan and to come up with a way how to pursue what they want to do, how to survive, and how to survive with the emotional side of the industry.
Wow.
Um, a
Yeah.
little bit of the business side, not to conflict with some of the business things that are being taught, but the business side of what do you need to do? How do you run your business? What do you have to do to put your business together?
Right.
How do you succeed? What are your metrics? Working with filmmakers, for example, oftentimes we've been seeing people, I want to go from here to here, and this is what I'm going to do. And that's all great. And they have the creative down, like, man, they know the creative part of this business. They got nothing going on the financial side.
Right. Right.
And where's the money going to come from?
Hmm.
How much money are you going to burn before you're cash flow positive?
Right.
How does the money flow? Where does the money come from? What does your revenue stream look like?
Yeah.
And if you can't explain it, you'll never get an investor.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And
Hmm.
so, but to work with people on those things, to help people cope with the difficult times, you know, I have a huge advantage that a lot of people don't have. And that for as long as we've been in this business, um, Cindy and I are on counter-cyclical sine waves of where we are mentally in the business. So if one is up, the other's on the lower side. So
Yeah.
we're
Right.
always able to bring the other one back up to it.
I love that.
And the other is to be able to walk into it, um, regardless of what I've done before and what success I did or didn't have.
Hmm.
I am not entitled to anything in this business. None of that entitles me to anything. It gives me experience I can use.
Right.
It gives me some knowledge I can use, gives me some coping skills I can use. But
Right.
professionally, I'm entitled to nothing. I'm at the bottom and I'm working my way up, just like the kid that just did his last high school play and he's going to try to build a career in film.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
and having that cemented and
Mhm.
not being frustrated by a sense of entitlement, I think is very, very helpful.
No, I love that. I mean, again, one of the things I listened to, and Arnold has said in his book, he goes, he doesn't like when people say, "Oh, you're a self-made man." He's like, "No, I'm not." He goes,
Mm,
"I have had a bunch of people help me along the way.
mm,
The good and the bad." He goes, "All the people that were naysayers, all those people that are negative, they all helped him." He goes, "I can't do this by myself because that's
mm,
impossible." And he goes, "You have to have some sort of team in some
mm,
aspect of your life."
mm,
So again, I think it's, again, yeah, I love it when people want to go, and I know people like that. They want to go after
mm,
life coaches, like, "Oh yeah." It's like,
mm.
yeah, you're learning from
Yeah.
some TikTok person. Like they haven't done anything. They
No,
don't have a
that's right.
kid. They don't
That's
know
right.
what real
Yeah,
bills
yeah,
are
that's
or
right. Yeah.
whatever. or they
Yeah.
don't know where that word is, Beaudry, that you
That's
said.
right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So as we tell people, if you haven't been divorced, shot at, and fired, you're really not in a position to give any advice to anybody.
Exactly. No, I mean, and I think that's so true, and I think that's what's great, in life and where we are. There's been a lot of growth and a lot of learning the past few years. I believe, I think I always say COVID was a revelation in the sense of it woke up a lot of people like, oh my gosh, look how fleeting life is. Look how fast the world just stopped. And then now we're coming out of that still. How do you reevaluate? What are those things that are important? And that's why I love knowing what you and Cindy are doing. And, I want to see you out there. And, now the strike is over. And so, we're hoping that these floodgates are going to open, and I'll be seeing you and Cindy out there on TV and movies.
Yep.
Now, is there a website? Because what I want to do at the end of this, because we're going to start wrapping up, is, where can I send people to your website? What do you want to plug? And I will also put it in the liner notes.
Sure. Yeah, it's the website is sagecoachingandcounseling.com, all one big long word. And the emphasis we have, and just momentarily on the team, we do the life coaching and executive coaching, but we also have on staff a Cindy, as I mentioned, is a minister. She's a unity minister, so she's not at any extreme. But she does a lot of counseling work.
Nice.
Beyond coaching. She does legitimate counseling. We have a young lady on our team who actually is also in the industry and a stunt driver, but she also had her face ripped off at 16. And she provides trauma counseling. And her story, and we don't have time to go into it, I will just say that we were looking at her to host a show in LA. And I knew her story, but I'd never heard her tell her story. And I wanted to, cameras rolling, I wanted to film it. And so I got down with my phone and was going to film her while she was talking, and I couldn't finish.
Wow.
It was that emotional to hear her. She's a wonderful person, and her story should be its own show. And we also have a woman on staff who is clean and sober for 14 years. She started heroin at 13. She's 60 something now.
My God.
We met her. She had a diploma. She's now got all the highest level psychology degrees, and she does counseling out of Denver, and virtually. She's brutal, so she will do. She's legitimate substance abuse, drug and alcohol counseling, and takes all insurances. So if we run into that with our people, whether it's a family problem or their own problem, we just refer that out to her, and she takes care of that. And she's a 6 foot tall, 6'1" Australian redhead with lots of tattoos who takes nothing from anybody.
Wow. I'll have to go to your website just to check that out. That sounds
she's awesome. She's absolutely wonderful. Yeah. So
wow. Well, thank you, Richard, so much. I really appreciate your time, talking to us, telling us your story. I'm definitely going to, blast out the website, all that. And I want to, revisit with you in the coming weeks or month or so and see where you're at again, now that this strike is over, and see what you guys are up to. So thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Until the next time.
For sure. Thank you. And we have our group tomorrow morning, so don't.
Well, there you go. There you go. So until the next time, everyone have a great, wonderful week.
Thank you.
Peace, love, and positivity. And I will talk.
Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
Oh, you're welcome, sir. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.